Crocoin has had a fantastic year, up over 77% from January 1st, meaning that it has in fact outperformed the broader altcoin market. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss 3 reasons why I believe Crocoin has been an outperformer and why I think this trend will continue moving into the new year and the next crypto bull run. You can expect to hear about all this and more in today's episode of the Everything Crypto Show. Now, before we hop into the content, just a friendly reminder that I am not a financial advisor, nor do I offer any sort of financial advice on YouTube. I am simply here for your crypto news and entertainment purposes. And if you do find the videos informative and or entertaining, please consider hitting that sub and like button and turning the notification bell on so you can catch all of our latest videos when they go live, which is generally speaking at about noontime EST. So we're going to hop into today's topic of discussion, and that is Crocoin. Now, we spoke about this project heavily on the channel at the beginning of the year. I said that I felt as if in the bear market, this project was punished incredibly hard, that people were way too bearish on the project, and that it was undervalued relative to what it should be worth. And that definitely does appear to be the right call as we do kind of hit the year end for 2023. As we mentioned, this project has in fact outperformed the broader altcoin market, up about 77.87%. And in that same time period here, the total crypto market cap is up about, or sorry, total 3, which is the altcoin market, is up about 75%. But then if you actually factor in the staking yield you can get on the Cronos POS chain, which comes in at over 7%, yeah, Crocoin has actually had a decent outperformance here when compared to the rest of the altcoin market. Now, there are 3 reasons why I believe this has actually occurred, and we're going to cover them in today's video. And so we got Crypto.com here, which is the first one on the list, and then Cronos POS chain, and the last one is the Cronos chain. And we're going to kind of just do a review of these 3 aspects of Crocoin and why I believe that these all 3 of these different portions here have contributed to a nice year for the altcoin. So for number 1, we're going to talk about Crypto.com, and we're going to start off with the Rewards Plus program. Now, this was recent. This actually just dropped in early December. And basically what this is Crypto.com offering some very juicy incentives for people who use the platform, including up to 10% yield on your stable coins through their crypto earn feature. But most importantly, in my opinion, and especially when it pertains to Crocoin, is they buffed the Visa cashback rewards, so you can potentially get up to 8% back in Cro when using the Crypto.com Visa. Now, Crypto.com, they do have a lot of different products that they offer, but the Crypto.com Visa specifically is something that does actually directly impact Crocoin itself. And the reason being is that, you know, the Crypto.com Visa actually requires you to stake Cro in order to be eligible for this card for a 6-month period, okay? And then on top of that, if you actually keep this Cro locked up past the 6 months, you keep all these rewards. And if you decide to unstake your Cro, you lose the majority of these rewards. So basically, you are heavily incentivized to purchase Cro to lock it up for the Visa, and then to keep that Cro locked up to continue receiving these benefits, which in my opinion are some of the best on the market when it comes to crypto Visas. So you can see here the Ruby Steel requires you to lock up 400 USD worth of Cro. The next tier is 4,000. The second highest tier is 40,000 USD. And the Obsidian Black requires you to lock up 400,000 USD worth of Cro for this Visa. And you can see here that they offer 1, 2, 3, and 5% cashback respectively, as well as some other benefits here. Spotify, Netflix, Prime, Expedia, Airbnb. But the cashback in and of itself is very impressive in my opinion. You can see here. And now you are eligible to earn up to an additional 3% cashback here on your card, depending on what level you are for the Crypto.com rewards program. So for the Obsidian Black, you have 5%. You can get that up to 8%. For this tier, you can get it up to 6%. For the Royal Indigo and Jade Green, you can get that cash back from 2% to 5%, and then the Ruby Steel from 1 to 4%. And keep in mind that cash back is all in Cro. So a point that I made at the beginning of the year actually was that, you know, you're getting this cash back in Cro, And then you actually also have to factor for the price movement of Crow coin itself. So for example, the Royal Indigo and Jade Green, you are getting 2% cash back. However, let's say that you made purchases, when Crow was at 5 cents, and then all of a sudden Crow goes up to 10 cents. Well, that 2% cash back has now turned into 4% cash back because Crow coin just doubled. So basically, I mean, you lock up your Crow to get this Visa card, and then you get Crow and cash back when you actually use the card. You get a nice little staking yield on top of that for the Visa, and it basically just incentivizes people to buy Crow, to continue earning Crow, to continue holding Crow, and really forming a long-term holder base, which is very important for any sort of altcoin in my opinion. And we can see here that after consolidating for just under a year, that once Crow coin started to move, I mean, there was basically no selling pressure on the way up, which, does lead me to believe that there is a pretty strong holder base that was averaging down, that was buying here. And yeah, Crow coin has basically doubled from those bear market lows. Now, I do also want to talk about Crypto.com from a regulatory standpoint, as this is another aspect they have been doing amazing in, getting a ton of regulatory approval to operate in as many jurisdictions as possible to really benefit from when they start onboarding that next wave of crypto users in the bull run. And we are not even, I mean, we're in the very early stages of the bull market in my opinion. So I do like this strategy from them. And we can see here that throughout the bear market, and this does also extend back to 2022, but still worth mentioning, that, they've actually gotten regulatory approval in Singapore. They have a fully regulated derivatives product from the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission and Derivatives Clearing Organization. They have licenses in France, in Greece, in Dubai, in Brazil, in Australia, in Cyprus, in the Cayman Islands, as well as in Canada and with the Ontario Securities Commission. So if they can basically continue to get that regulatory approval and operate in as many jurisdictions as possible, and also make it incentivizing for their customers to actually own their native token in Crow coin, that could be very good for the altcoin and get it some more adoption there on a global scale. So that is why we do take a look at what Crypto.com has been doing throughout the bear market year, and that crosses number 1 off the list. So number 2, we got to get into the Cronos POS chain. This was formerly known as the Crypto.org chain. Now it is known as the Cronos POS chain. And we can see here that there's about 6.738 billion Crow coin locked up on this chain. And now Crow has a circulating supply at the moment of about 26.5 billion the last I heard. So basically about 20% of all Crow coin circulating is locked up on this chain and earning a pretty nice yield here, which currently sits at about 7.63%. So over 7.5% APY you're actually earning on your Crow simply for holding it on this chain. And if we take a look at the actual, amount of Crow on this chain, it sits at about 6.738 bill at the moment. At the beginning of the year, I believe it was closer to 6 bill. So we've seen over a 10% increase in the amount of Crow coin that is actually delegated here. And if we consider the circulating supply of Crow, which currently sits over 26 mil, then that means about 20% of all Crow coin circulating is in fact locked up right now for this yield. And that becomes relevant because the Cronos POS chain actually has a 28-day unbonding period, meaning if you want to get your Crow off of this chain, or not off the chain, but basically out of your staking pool, then yeah, you're going to have to wait 28 days, which I think it's pretty safe to assume that, people locking up their Crow coin for this yield, acknowledging a 28-day unbonding period, are most likely long-term holders for the project, probably not trying to flip it for a quick penny if you have to wait 4 weeks to get it back. So that is definitely a good look, once again, for the long-term holder base of this project as it does continue to grow. And a very relevant piece of news that did actually come out for the Cronos POS chain earlier this year was the Crow coin burn proposal. So earlier in the year, it was announced that the Cronos team was looking to basically slow down the inflation of this chain through a burn proposal. and yeah, just reduce the overall inflation rate. So effectively, what they look to do here was actually take about 15% of the Crow emissions that would be handed out as rewards here, and then actually go ahead and put it in a community pool wallet, which would be burned on a periodic basis. So the burn proposal was announced earlier in the year. It did pass, and then in late November, we actually saw them initiate their first burn as the community pool approached 50 million Crow coin. So the things they have considered, and I'm not too sure what the outcome of this choice was yet, but either a threshold triggered burn, so every 25 mil to 50 million Crow placed in the burn wallet and it automatically burns, or a calendar governed burn, so something like a quarterly burn regardless of how much Crow coin sits in the wallet. And that first burn did in fact take place. So the community pool, which once would have had 50.84 million Crow in it, now has 8.4 million Crow in it, as the initial 50 mil has been burned, sent to a burn wallet address, and will never be coming back into the float. And now we have this 8.4 mil Crow sitting in here, which means we're basically just under 20% of the way back to the second Crow coin burn taking place. So definitely nice to see that the burn proposal did actually pass. And this is the one thing I've said about Crow coin, is that I would like to see the supply be reduced. And any way they can do such, I definitely am a fan of. Granted, these are not the biggest burns in the world if you consider the circulating supply of 26.5 mil and, the total supply of 30.2 mil. I mean, definitely nothing like that 70 billion burn that they did back in 2021. However, I mean, any burn is a step in the right direction. I would just like to see this increased in the future. But overall, pretty substantial growth for the Cronos POS chain as well. Definitely some nice growth here in terms of the amount of people staking. The burn proposal, which did pass. So overall, Cronos POS chain, it did its job this year, right? If you've been staking your Crow all year, on top of the impressive price appreciation Crow has seen, you've been earning an additional 7.5% there. Once again, paid out in Crow coin. So that is very nice indeed. And the last thing I do want to talk about here is the Cronos EVM chain. And the first one is the fact that, basically they are now on their way to achieving, or the chain rather is on its way to achieving, the second consecutive month of 25% growth for the number of monthly active users. And we actually saw a massive spike in transactions, which did align with the inscription craze that went on a couple of weeks back. We saw that the Cronos EVM chain was actually having a hard time processing transactions, and the team, I'm sure they were working on this before, but they responded swiftly as they announced the Cronos ZK EVM testnet. So what this effectively is a Cronos HYPERCHAIN, which is basically going to allow them to tap into Ethereum's extensive user base and liquidity while preserving its robust security and decentralization. So the Cronos ZK EVM testnet is a zero-knowledge layer 2 rollup network on top of the Ethereum Sepolia testnet. Let me actually find it right here. So the hyperchains, they are fractal-like instances of ZK EVM networks running in parallel and with a common settlement on the Ethereum mainnet. In 2024, hyperchains will adopt a shared native bridge to Ethereum mainnet, as well as unified interchain messaging, which will make it possible for users to send tokens, messages, or transactions across hyperchains while benefiting from the security of the Ethereum network. According to the Cronos team, some of the things that this hyperchain will have to offer, again, includes that shared liquidity with Ethereum, yield-bearing assets as well. So expecting that the network token backed by Crow and several stablecoins and other cryptos will be natively yield generating for users just by holding them on the chain, which can be achieved via rebase tokens. And then they also talk about account abstraction. So basically, thanks to account abstraction, users can deposit their funds to the chain and transact with dApps without ever having to switch networks. Instead, they can opt to emit off-chain signatures from any EVM home chain or even from mobile apps or games with their usual login. and dApps on Cronos should support account abstraction by default, so they can take care of relaying transactions to the Cronos ZK EVM and even pay for gas. And this also means that moving into the new year, that the CroCoin ecosystem is now going to be comprised of Crypto.com and 3 different blockchains, all powered by this token, including the Cronos EVM chain, the Cronos POS chain, and now the Cronos ZK EVM, or I'm going to call it the Cronos excuse me, the Cronos HYPERCHAIN. So yeah, I do think that, you know, this launch as of right now is expected in June of 2024, and definitely could act as a bullish tailwind for the altcoin in mid next year. So on that note, I hope you did enjoy the content in today's video. Before we wrap it up though, I do got to give our check as we covered the 3 big growth catalysts for CroCoin throughout this year. And let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see a CroCoin price prediction video for the next bull run. I hope you are all staying happy, safe, and healthy, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace out for now.